Hello everyone, Shrouded Hand here. So I've been working on a video all week and then I was halfway through editing it and I decided it just wasn't very good, so I scrapped the whole thing. I'd rather put out no video at all than something that I find boring, so I apologise for the lack of uploads this week. I decided instead to try something completely different, so here's the first ever Shrouded Hand review. Strangely enough, for my first horror review, I'm going to look at a comedy TV show. Jam was an extremely morbid and surreal sketch show that aired late at night in the early noughties. The show ran with no ad breaks, no opening titles or end credits, and it had an extremely hypnotic quality to it. It was deliberately designed to be aired in the early hours of the morning, a time when a lot of people would have been heavily inebriated in one way or another. I imagine a lot of viewers woke up the next morning after watching it and thought that they'd dreamt the whole thing. What I find strangest about the show is the way that it's shot. Most of the scenes seem to have been recorded and then slowed down, so that everyone delivers their lines like this.
What seems to be the trouble?
It's my leg.
This also results in a very slow and jerky frame rate, and there's these weird visual effects over the whole thing, making a lot of it quite difficult to watch. It also gives the show a very unsettling and unreal atmosphere. There was actually an even more heavily edited version on the show. It's the same show, but the title had more A's in it for some reason. In this version, the audio-visual effects were even stronger, sometimes making it virtually unwatchable. It would be aired even later at night, causing further headfucks for anyone who had seen the original episodes. The DVD release is full of weird stuff too. Each episode has an original version and a special version, which is pretty much unwatchable. One of the special versions is an entire episode squashed down into a tiny box which bounces around the screen like a screensaver. Another version is an episode recorded on fast forward, then stretched back out to its original length. It results in a massively degraded picture. Instead of deleted scenes, they've got undeleted scenes. All this does is give you a screen telling you to go back to the shop and complain loudly that there aren't any undeleted scenes on the DVD. In the Play All menu, there's an option to play all at once. Selecting this option just gives you still images from each episode with the word Y across the top. After this, a red dot appears on the screen. If you click on a dot, it takes you to a strange hidden rehearsal scene that doesn't feature anywhere else on the DVD. There's also an option called Forced Viewing. Selecting this will inform you that you've made an idiotic decision and that the disc will now play on a loop forever with no way of stopping it. Interestingly enough, this does actually stop all the buttons on your DVD remote from working. As you can see from this screenshot, all the control buttons are greyed out, and so is the option to go back to the title menu. The only way to end it was to stop the disc and eject it from the player. And I haven't even talked about the content of the show yet. It was written by Chris Morris, the man responsible for the Brass Eye Paedophilia episode, one of the most complained about TV episodes in British broadcasting history. Interestingly, Jam was even more offensive than Brass Eye, but it didn't get nearly as many complaints. Probably because it was aired so late at night, and was actually quite hard to sit through, so probably less people watched it and complained about it. Each sketch seems to revolve around the darkest subject matters imaginable. Dead babies, incest, suicide, rape, bestiality. Nothing was off limits, and watching it today, I'm amazed that they convinced the actors to go along with some of it. There are a number of scenes which particularly creeped me out the first time I saw them, and they're not any easier to watch today. One of the sketches is about a couple trying to get a discount on the house they are buying, and they end up having to perform sex acts on the man who is selling the house. After a few sex sessions, they feel they can't go on anymore, so instead they come to a deal where they give him their mentally handicapped sister to fuck instead.
Hello, Louise.
She's been fed.
Ugh. Glad to see she's got your mouth, Linus. Say goodbye, Louise.
Bye bye. Bye.
Oh, Louise. Look what I found.
Another one is about a man who's going for acupuncture, and it consists of him getting long nails hammered through his arms, legs, and then his head and rib cage. He's then propped upright like he's been crucified. I remember finding this one really disturbing the first time I saw it. She tells him to push down on the nails in his arms to relieve the pressure on his ribs and his skull. And then you see that there's a whole room full of people being crucified in this way. And I don't know why I still really hate this sketch. There's just something about it that really gets under my skin. And then there's this one about couples going to an abortion clinic. And then you see all these happy couples walking about with tiny coffins. It's just the way they all seem so cheerful, and this little wave at her belly before she goes in for the abortion. It's really sinister. This is one of the sketches that I can't believe they were able to pitch to the actors and then get them to agree to it. Another well-known scene is the apathetic parents. It's just two parents sat in the house, and then they begin to wonder why their 7-year-old son hasn't come home from school that day. Later on, you see them getting a phone call from the police, and it turns out that their child has been found raped and strangled to death. And this is their reaction to that news.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
So what's that, love?
We've got to bury him ourselves.
Did they say what had happened?
Sounds like he was buggered quite a lot and then strangled.
It's a bit much.
Apparently it was that bloody Mike Holland that did it. I'll have a word with him next time I see him.
Yeah.
There's even an extra on the DVD where they put a laughter track over this scene. Somehow it makes it even more disturbing.
Sounds like he was buggered quite a lot and then strangled. Apparently it was that bloody Mike Holland that did it. I'll have a word with him next time I see him.
Each sketch sort of melts into the next. There's no real beginning or end to them, and there's this eerie ambient music playing over the top the whole time. The entire thing feels like a sort of waking nightmare. I really like how the show manages to create an extremely unsettling and frightening atmosphere without using any of the typical horror tropes. You wouldn't think that mild ambient music, slowed down footage and weird visual filters would create such a creepy atmosphere, but they do. The actors are really good too. They all went on to do a lot of really good dark comedy and horror roles after this. I particularly recommend Nighty Night. It was written by and stars Julia Davis, and it also stars Kevin Eldon, who's in Jam as well. So is Jam the most disturbing comedy ever made? It could be, unless of course you include the Bicycle Man episode of Different Strokes. But if you know of any other comedy shows which are even worse, please tell me about them in the comments. I love finding new weird stuff to watch. And if you've never watched Jam, I really recommend you check it out. I think all the episodes are on YouTube somewhere if you search for them. I wouldn't say it's an enjoyable experience, but it's definitely an experience nonetheless. So if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed it, consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you very much for watching. And let me know what you think of this review. Let me know if it was any good, and I'll review some more horror films and stuff in the future. And until next time,
Bye.